Hi, I'm Quincas and I'm a synth DIY guy. Welcome to my demo video for the Befaco VCMC voltage controlled MIDI controller. So without further ado, let's just get started looking at this neat patch I did, which integrates this DAW rack I have set up here and Bitwig. Basically, I've set up a tiny little modular for each of these tracks, which consists of just a triangle wave oscillator. And each one, I've changed the skew and fold settings slightly to give them distinguishable timbres. So by clicking here on channel 2, you can see another triangle oscillator connected to the speakers, and it's got skew and fold here at a different setting, and same with each one of these, right? And here's number 4. Now another thing you'll notice is that number 1 here is getting MIDI from channel 2, while number 2 is getting it from channel 3, number 3 is getting it from channel 4, and number 4 is getting it from channel 5. And I have set up my instrument here to send MIDI 1 note per channel, and I've selected precisely channels 2, 3, 4, and 5 to be the channels that will be getting note information from the instrument. So basically that means that each new note that I play on the instrument will go into a different one of these voices. So we'll be sort of cascading. That'll be a neat way to use the instrument to define the chords that will be sounding. This is definitely a drone patch. I'm not using any VCAs or envelope generators, although one of the things I'm doing is kind of like a VCA, which is voltage controlling the faders here, right? Now, if you right mouse click on one of these faders on Bitwig, you get a little menu, and one of the options is to map to controller or key. So I've already done this to all 4 of these faders, and I've mapped them to my inputs 1, 2, 3, and 4 on the VCMC. Right, CV inputs here, and those are 4 LFO outputs from my filter 8, which is acting as a voltage controlled octature LFO right now. So 4 of those LFOs are controlling these 4 volume faders over here. And the way I did this, because it can be kind of tricky, since most DAWs use a learn function in order to assign. If you have a whole bunch of CV inputs with CV information coming in, it would be difficult to map a specific one to a specific control. So one thing you can do is pre-plan everything and just use a single voltage source to send information to each input as you program it here. Or what I did was I just assigned every single one of these faders to be attenuators for the inputs. So if I have them all down, I'm sending no CV information at all. And as I set each fader to learn, all I did was raise the corresponding fader here so that it would send information and a fader would learn. And I did the same thing with the panning here. So the pan you can also map to controller or key. And I did that with the other 4 outputs from my filter 8, which is acting as a octature LFO. And those are inputs 5 to 8 here on the VCMC. And again, I did the same thing. So I used the faders. It's pretty easy to configure the faders to be attenuators for those inputs. And it can even be kind of a dynamic part of the performance, because these can act also as just overall volume faders for the channels. So let's listen to what I've got going here. First thing I'm going to do is raise up the 4 panning CVs, and you will watch as those panning knobs move, and one of them in particular is actually responding to something different. It's responding to my contour 1, which is in turn being controlled by a random voltage from the no coast. Just to add a little bit of interest, one of the channels is getting a very different panning information from the other ones. Now as I turn the volumes up, we'll start hearing those oscillators. So let's go. And there it is. That's my drone. So I'm going to just play around with the instrument and change the notes, and I'm also going to modulate the speed of the LFO with the filter 8 over there and do a little performance that way. Okay, so let's go for it. so this is my Bitwig experiment. It's pretty simple, but it shows some of the interesting, original, unique things that you can do using VCMC, using the modular to control not just other modules, virtual modules, but the actual DAW itself. I'm actually using my modules to mix, controlling volumes and panning. Cool. So let's go to the next experiment. Okay, so let's check out experiment number 2 for the VCMC, voltage controlled MIDI controller by Befaco. This time I have it connected to my iPad Pro here, which is running the Moog Model 15 app, which is a really cool modular app for which I was actually beta tester, and 17 of the factory presets, including this one, Cosmic Organ Grinder, are actually mine. I created them. So I simply connected my iPad to a generic Radio Shack USB splitter, which is also converting from USB-C to 3.0, looks like. And I have the same thing going into the VCMC as I had before. So it's still LFOs from my little modular, most of them coming out of filter 8. So to program, I'll go into settings here, and we need to choose VCMC as well as an input device. Okay, now we'll go to map CCs here, and we can go choose one, map it. Well, one will be resonance. There you go. Now we'll have just the volumes. 3, 4. I have some stuff in the mixer, like 4 voices going into the mixer. Why don't we make those 4 voices respond to 5, 6, 7, and 8 right here. And that'll do it for now. So let's just close the mapping page, and now we can go ahead and alright, so let's turn the speed up on my LFO here. I'm going to send random voltage to the LFO. If I turn off number 1 here, I get manual control over the filter again. I can also make that resonance variation be less radical. Well, and this is just what I kind of came up with randomly here. So I'm sure if I really think about it, I can come up with a patch from scratch that's using modulation sources from my physical modular and modulating parameters in my iPad modular. So cool. All right, and for our last test, I've loaded up VCV Rack, the famous, which is probably what most people are going to use this thing for, because now you can have all these modules that you maybe don't have or don't have 4 of interact with your physical modular. I've set up a patch here which is basically Spectral Audio's Seasons sending its 4 outputs. It's kind of a shift registry kind of sequencer. The notes are cascaded throughout the 4 outputs, and I have each output going to one of these even VCOs, and each even VCO going through one of these meta modulator modules inspired by mutable instruments, and then that's going into this mixer, 4-channel mixer here, where I've done a little panning, so we have all 4 voices spread out in the panning, and it's muted. If I unmute it, you will hear it now. Pretty static sounding at this point because I'm not sending any modulation, and that's where the VCMC is going to come in. So let's turn this on and start sending some modulation sources. First thing I'm going to do is assign, so I have this module here, the MIDI to CC. I click on one here, and then if I press 1 here, I can see that I'm sending it CC number 34, right? So I can write 34 on there. and enter. So now this first input over here, I can send it to change the algorithm of the first meter modulator here. And we'll open that up. All right, it says no device here. I have to choose the VCMC, and there we go. So now we're modulating the timbre for that first voice, right, with an LFO. Now let's choose a different speed LFO, and we'll do the same thing with the other one. So I'll take an LFO here from my product. Oh, and now it'll learn. Yep. Yeah, now that I have VCMCs selected as the device, it'll learn. So now we can take this output over here. We'll send it to the timbre of our second voice. Cool. Now let's do the same. Let's turn these down. Let's mute this for now. Let's take another sort of cyclical LFO type thing, which could be my contour module here. We'll send that to input 3 here on the VCMC. Now when I click on the third channel here, it already learned CC number 36 because it's the only one I'm letting any data through. So let's just do this 4 times, right? And I'll send the fourth one to the timbre of the meter modulator number 4. And we need to send another kind of LFO. I'll take the slope in cycle from the no coast. Take that slope output and I'll plug it into number 4 here. And I'll click on number 4 on the MIDI CC module and I'll send it data from number 4 by opening up the fader. So now, if I unmute everybody, as I turn these up, I'm fiddling with the octaves a little bit. We can have different algorithms on the meter modulator. And basically we're sending them all timbre modulation signals. We can make it faster. Now what can I do with my other 4 faders over here? Why don't I take some more modulation sources here? Why don't I send these to the panning on the 4 channels of my mixer? Right? 1, 2, 3, and 4. And now I'm going to physically patch 4 outputs here. That's a little tight. 4 outputs here. So we got like a quadrature LFO going into inputs 5 through 8. So I click on this one and move fader 5, and that's mapped. Bring it back down. Click on this one, move fader 6, that's mapped. Click on this one, move fader 7, mapped. Click on this one, move fader 8, and that is mapped. So now cool. I'm getting some nice auto pan effects. Now let's turn the timbre modulations up. Very cool. Now we can play around with the sequence. That's without any of the CV, so everything's super static, and this is with all of the well, the modulation I'm sending it. So again, super simple idea. I didn't go super deep, but there's a lot more interesting stuff than this that you can do by integrating your modular with VCV Rack using Befaco's VCMC, voltage controlled MIDI controller. That's it for today. I hope you liked this video. If you did, hit like, subscribe, join my Patreon, stay noisy, and see you soon. All right.